And welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. And if you have not yet done so, please subscribe to both our YouTube channel and to the podcast. We are carrying on our series on Israeli non-startup nation entrepreneurship. And we have a different angle today, something we haven't really touched, and that's the angle of media. And it is my pleasure to bring onto the show Rolene Marks, who is a freelance journalist and broadcaster. She's also a keynote speaker who appears on international radio, television, and has been published in numerous global publications. She is the owner of Rolene Marks Consulting, specializing in media, public relations, consulting on Jewish and Israel-related issues, as well as media training with both local and international clients as varied public relations companies, nonprofits, security, strategic planning, high-tech, and commercial. It goes on and on. She's done an incredible amount of things, let me just tell you. And one more thing, she is a PhD candidate in the field of media, politics, anti-Semitism at the University of Middlesex, London. Rolene, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Good to join you.
I appreciate that. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about what Rolene Marks Consulting is.
Well, Rolene Marks Consulting was a business I started now 10 years ago in Israel. And, actually, it started me. The company that I worked for retrenched a whole lot of staff. I was working, one of those great entry or limit jobs, where you are either capturing data or you're writing spam for a living, those things just to get our feet in the door. And they retrenched a whole lot of people, and a high-tech company approached me to do some PR work, to do some branding, because I had done it in South Africa, where I lived before I made Aliyah. And that just snowballed. So what Rolene Marks Consulting does is I do a lot of freelance writing. So it can either be the political journalism, which is my background, or it can be your content for your website, for your marketing brochures, your speeches. I've even had to write people's CVs, which is fine. And I also, because of my background in working in radio, television, I do media training. And I do some Hasbara lecturing as well, even though I hate the word Hasbara, because it inevitably gets us accused of being a Hasbararist and an agent and a member of this or that intelligence organization, which I've yet to receive a check from. And also the PR work, your PR strategy, which media you should be looking at. Sometimes, do I need to do crisis management? What kind of messaging you are putting out? What do you want associated around your brand? So that is the kind of offering Rolene Marks Consulting does.
So growing up in South Africa, did you think that you were gonna ever have your own business, or you were very focused sort of on the media thing already, and then, as you said, you sort of got thrown into it, but with the traditional Israeli story, so to speak?
In fact, to make you laugh, it happened to me in South Africa as well. I was thrown into it in the exact same way. So I kind of think that maybe somebody upstairs is saying to me, you're not supposed to work for somebody. You're supposed to be entrepreneurial. You're supposed to put yourself out there. And you're supposed to have what it takes to deal with all the pitfalls, the ebbs and flows that having your own business has.
That's great. What is the lay of the land? I see that you're a co-founder of Lay of the Land. What is that?
I'm very proud. Lay of the Land is a website that I co-founded with two partners. We do it completely voluntarily. It's a labor of love between the three of us. And two of us come from a journalistic background, and one partner comes from a security background. And we worked together for a company that was very, very focused on dealing with some of the issues, BDS related, anti-Israel related overseas. And when that contract came to an end, we thought, well, why don't we just continue that by starting our own platform? And what we really try to do is give a platform for a variety of different opinions, a variety of different writers, people who want to have that exposure, people who have something to say. We want to be that platform. So as long as as long as the content that we're given is not abusive in any way, and as long as it meets our standards of writing, we're happy to profile those young writers, or actually writers of any age. So if you feel you have an article in you, it can be anything from something political or a human interest story, or even something business related, because people tend to like those articles that are something they can use in their daily life. We are very, very happy to take those.
Wow. So you do a lot of different things, right? You've got your hand in a lot of different things, and you're like a correspondent for some news channels. You appear on TV. How do you have the time to sort of do all of this, right? You have a very, very impressive resume background, but how are you able to sort of navigate time issues?
I have always been maybe a type A personality, and people laugh, but I run my life according to my to-do list. I keep a to-do list. Yes, it's written. I'm a bit type A in that I list all of the activities or all of the tasks that I have to do, where I am in the cycle of that, and whether or not it has been actioned. And I found that in keeping the time, and it also allows me leisure time. It allows me to go to the gym for an hour every day. It allows me to meet that friend for a cup of coffee and not become anxious because I'm not getting work done. So it is meticulous timekeeping. The pitfall to that is that when there are sudden massive changes, is learning to be flexible enough to deal with any challenges that come that way.
I want to go back to your entrepreneurial beginnings. A lot of what we've heard doing this series is about people who came here, were in a certain field, and then saw that they could use that field or clients or connections they were making to springboard to the next step, which is to start their own business. It sounds like your story is similar to that. Is that true?
Yes, it is. You know, I studied in South Africa. I studied marketing management, and I also studied radio. There was a radio station that was the only source for teaching broadcasters how to broadcast. And I thought, well, I'm coming up with a marketing background. I had just done through the University of South Africa my international relations and diplomacy. And I thought, well, surely I can combine all of this together and I have something to offer. Yes, it is extremely competitive. You know, you're coming up against many people who have the same background in your field. And I thought, well, if anything, I can parlay that into a small business.
And did you sort of bounce the idea off of other people, or to see, well, really, I'm thinking about this. Should I really jump in, or did you just decide just to go for it? What was that process like?
I actually decided to just go for it because I got that initial contact wanting me to do work for them, and I thought, you know what? I did it in South Africa. Yes, there were ebbs and flows, as there always are with a business of your own, and I thought, you know what, let me do it in Israel as well. And it also gives me the ability and the freedom that if I am called to do a TV commentary, if I am called to do a radio commentary, it's not going to affect my business. And that's the difference between doing that in Israel and in South Africa. In South Africa, you've always got the thought at the back of your mind, what are my clients' feelings towards the state of Israel? If I'm on news television and I'm explaining the Mavi Marmara incident or Operation Cast Lead, what is my client who maybe is not Jewish or not Zionist? How are they going to react? Whereas here, it's just, it's part of the course, and it wins you more friends, more support.
It's interesting, right? Because you had a business there and they have a business here. When you started the business, even to today, right? You grew up in a certain culture, right? And you had a business in that culture, which I assume was something you were familiar with. And then all of a sudden, to jump in a foreign country, in a foreign language, with a foreign business culture, what was that process like? And probably, have you managed to sort of corral it even after all of these years, or are there still like issues that you find that you have?
Great question. I think, if you put the Shark Tank in front of me and asked me to dive in, that's exactly what it was like. Because we're a small country, and because the competitive level is so much higher, it is a lot more difficult. Plus, there's language to deal with. And you're not just dealing with one culture. You're dealing with maybe 50 different cultures. Mm-hmm. And each cultural group has their own unique way of doing business. So it was a very quick, sometimes very painful lesson in learning to toughen up, learning to go for it, and learning not to take nonsense. South Africans are very, we're very Anglo. There's a way of doing things, and you respect that boundary, and you respect that request, and you make sure this is done on time. Here, it's very, very different. Here, the remit of boundaries is not as it might be in countries where we come from, and you have to learn to navigate that very quickly.
That's really interesting. You're the first person in all these interviews who pointed out that even here, it's even more complicated because they're multi-cultures, right? You're dealing with, Israel's a true melting pot, right? So you might have a client, but just because they're here, they might have come from, South Africa, Australia, Latin America, Europe, North America. I mean, from everywhere in the world, right? That must be really, really challenging to work with.
It is challenging. I've learned to deal with my French-speaking clients very differently than to my South African, very differently to my Israeli. Israelis are transactional. They have the idea that they want something done, they want it done now. When you deal with other cultures, sometimes it's not about the transaction. Sometimes it's about building that relationship and gaining that trust. And before you proceed down the path with them, you've got to have that sorted out. You've got to have that solid relationship. And it's also fascinating because I work in tandem. I consult two companies. So it's fascinating for me to watch them learn to navigate other cultures as well. And sometimes part of what I have to do is research that culture and explain to them, understand that when we are speaking to this client, it's very, very different to what we're used to dealing with at home. If you're dealing with a European client, there's a way of writing things, there's a way of spelling things. I sometimes tell Israeli clients, please, 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 before you send anything out in English, send it to me to check. Let me check your grammar. Let me check the way that it's written, because all of that reflects on your business when you are dealing with a European client, because they have a level of expectations. The same with dealing with clients in the Emirates. You have to build that relationship, and you have to make sure your standards of communication are very, very high.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Aside from that, let's say, what has been sort of the biggest challenge with owning a business in Israel?
Yeah, without a doubt, getting clients to pay on time.
Interesting. Expand on that a little bit.
Your sense of urgency and their sense of urgency are not necessarily on the same timeline. You know, for some clients, 3 months later, it's okay. And when it's your business and you say to them, there are 3 months worth of outstanding invoices, pay up, please. I understand, I totally understand, and you're still waiting almost to the 4th month for your payments to be made. So that's frustrating to deal with. There's that, and of course you have your times when business is slow and you have to make allowances for that slow business.
And you mentioned something earlier, which I think applies to all entrepreneurs wherever they are, and that's that you said, you know, you can't let the no's sort of bother you. You have to, you sort of have a thick skin, right? You can't, rejection, if you're oversensitive or hypersensitive to rejection, it's going to be hard for you to be successful in your business. Would you agree with that?
Look, it is hard. It is hard when you're starting out not to take it personally. You know, sometimes there's just not that chemistry there. And sometimes for reasons that might be completely out of what you ever thought they would be, you don't proceed with that client. But I learned a fascinating saying from a mindfulness coach, Gabrielle Bernstein, who said, obstacles are detours in the right direction. So, you know, when something doesn't go according to plan, or, you know, you lose that contract, or you don't get that deal, my thought process over the years has been, you know, instead of disappearing into myself and crying and saying, why me, and eating a lot of ice cream, is to say, okay, obstacles are detours in the right direction. And somewhere along the line, it may not be today, but you're going to find out why you didn't get that particular contract.
Interesting. Finally, final question. This has been really, really informative. If you could give a tip for somebody who's, you know, either making Aliyah or has been here for a while, who's contemplating opening their own business, what would that sort of tip be?
I love this question because my tip is always, the first thing you do when that thought comes into your head, go and find an accountant immediately. Somebody you can trust, somebody you can work with, because this is not the country to try and do things under the table, underhanded, or cut corners, because Mas Haknasa will find you. It was the first piece of advice I was ever given when I was thinking of formalizing a business. I'm so glad I did it, because I have seen many, many, many small businesses, entrepreneurs fall along the way because of something so simple. It will save your business, it will save your sanity, and it will save your family in the long run. Don't cut corners. Make sure that you learn about what is expected of you, what you need to file. Yes, it's Israel. There's, you know, bureaucracy like no other country, but be happy for that bureaucracy, because that bureaucracy is there to protect you. The first thing you do, the minute you say, I think I'll start my own business, before you get those business cards or whatever you do these days printed, go find an accountant.
That's advice I think we can all agree on. How can people be in touch with you?
Easy to be in touch with me. You can be in touch with me either via LinkedIn, Rolene Marks, or via Facebook, Rolene Marks, or email me at rolenemarks@yahoo.com. I think I'm the only person left in the world who still uses Yahoo, but hey, if it ain't broke. I'm on Twitter at Rolmarks, but for business, I think the best is to always go to Rolene Marks.
Okay, great. And we'll put that contact information also on the notes of the show so people can click on it there as well. Rolene Marks, this is really, really interesting. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I really, really enjoyed it. And as I said, don't be scared to put me in the hot seat. Pretty used to that by now.
You've been tuning in to the Erin Katsman Show, where we speak about your life, your money, and your investments. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.